Tonight was the fallout from AEW All In London, their biggest show of the year this past Sunday. Many new champions crowned. One of the better shows of the entire year, with some excellent matches. I was a very big fan of that show on Sunday. So tonight was the fallout, and not a lot of turnaround here, because we go from All In to All Out in Chicago now in less than 2 weeks. And tonight, after one episode of Dynamite, the very first show coming out of All In, we already have the top 4 matches already set for All Out. Bryan Danielson was coming out tonight to address his wrestling future. Bryan Danielson on Sunday went out there and had one of the greatest matches of his career against Swerve Strickland and won the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. He etched his name into the history of this company. He is now part of that lineage. And he had what he said after the show, and he said it again tonight on TV, was, to him, the greatest moment of his career. And that's big when you consider the fact that he's been doing this for a long time. He's had a lot of great moments. He's won a lot of championships in his day. For that to be his favorite moment of his entire career, largely because his family was there, his kids were there. And I saw people online this week arguing with this man, arguing with him that it was the greatest moment of his career. How can you say that? How can you say that it was better than WrestleMania? I mean, that I've seen some really dumb things online, right? And a lot of it you just sort of gloss over, you look past it and you move on, you don't even mention it. But I have to say, among the really, really stupid things that I've seen from some of the Tribalist fans online, telling somebody what their favorite moment should or should not be of their own career is pretty fucking high up on the list. If the man says that it's the favorite moment and the best moment of his career, then guess what? That's what it is. But you can understand it because it was very emotional. And so it was a fantastic moment. But the question now coming into tonight was, what is he going to come out and address? Is he going to come out and issue a challenge to somebody? Is he going to come out and retire as the AEW World Heavyweight Champion? Surely he's not going to do that, because the match was title versus career on Sunday, and he won. So it would have made very little sense for him after all that to come out and say, you know what? Peace out. I'm done. So I wasn't expecting him to come out and just surrender the title, which would have been a ridiculously lame way to go about doing it. Instead, the man has a challenger. He has a challenger for Chicago, and that challenger will be the TNT champion, Darby Allin. Or not Darby Allin, Jack Perry, who beat Darby Allin. Darby Allin is the former TNT champion. I'm thinking of the coffin match from Sunday. I'm thinking of the coffin match because it makes sense that Jack Perry beat Darby Allin. That now sets him up for a shot at the World Championship. So in that regard, it makes sense. But here's another reason why it makes sense. Jack Perry is the man who pinned Bryan Danielson in the Anarchy in the Arena match back at Double or Nothing. This is a man who got set on fire, remember, during that match, got set on fire by Darby Allin, but went on to win the match for the Elite, and he beat Bryan Danielson to do it. So technically, Jack Perry has a win already over Bryan Danielson. So there is a little bit of history there coming into this match here. Him getting the first crack at the title, in many ways, makes sense. Was it the most exciting announcement in the world? Were the fans excited to see Jack Perry come out and be, the number one contender and challenge him? It really was an open challenge. Challenge him for the championship? No, they were underwhelmed. But you can make sense of it. Danielson already has a match lined up for Grand Slam next month. We already know he's going to be defending the title against Darby Allin on September 25th because Darby won the Royal Rampage many, many weeks ago to earn the right to challenge for that championship. So even though Darby lost to Jack Perry on Sunday, he's already got a world title match in his back pocket. Could it be against Jack Perry? Could we get a rematch between Darby Allin and Jack Perry, with Darby winning the AEW world title? If you were to list out all of the potential scenarios, that would probably be the least likely, but I do think you have to throw that out there. Very, very unlikely. I'm not expecting that to happen, but you can't rule it out. Yeah, there's been talk about potentially Darby Allin being given a run with the AEW World Heavyweight title. So we know that match is already coming up. The other thing also is think about where they're going to be for All Out. they're going to be in the Chicago area. I know it's Hoffman Estates, but they're going to be in Chicago, basically. You would expect that Jack Perry in Chicago, of all places, would get nuclear heat. Given the location, I would expect him to get perhaps Dominic Mysterio levels of heat on that show. So there are a lot of reasons that you could argue for Jack Perry to be in that spot. And I understand that there are going to be people who hate the decision and they think it's lame, they think it's underwhelming, or they don't like Jack Perry. But here's one common theme that was very apparent to me in watching this show tonight. Tony Khan's attempt to get new stars over using his more established names. When I say more established names, I don't just mean ex-WWE guys. Even somebody like MJF is an upper-level, top-tier established name on the AEW roster. He's an AEW veteran, right? He's not some young guy who they're trying to get over. He's already over. And you look at what they have been doing with Jack Perry, trying to get him over with the scapegoat character, giving him the win at Anarchy in the Arena, putting the TNT Championship on him, putting him in these prime situations, these big spots. You look at what they're doing with Daniel Garcia. That's another example. We saw that on the show tonight as well. That's the other big match, or one of the four, that's already been set in stone now for All Out. Daniel Garcia, who we saw return on Sunday at All In during the MJF Will Ospreay match. He was out there tonight throwing down the challenge saying, I talked to Tony Khan, the match is made. The match is official. I get you in the ring at All Out. And so MJF and Daniel Garcia will go one-on-one. And Daniel Garcia is another example of a young star that Tony Khan has had these start and stop fits with over the years, where he'll be pushed really hard. We used to have a running joke here in the live chat on these streams about Main Event Garcia, because almost every single week, this kid was in the main event of the show. You could tell that Tony Khan obviously saw something in him. But then when it looked like he was about to maybe break out in a big way, they pulled back on it, so it was kind of weird. The Continental Classic at the end of last year, he went winless except for one match, I think at the end. I think it was against Brody King. He finally picked up a win. Well, Garcia is in a very interesting contractual state right now where he may or may not be staying with AEW. But they are obviously moving ahead with this match with MJF in short order here. Whether you like the guy or not, he's a young star who Tony Khan is trying to push and trying to make something of. I cannot fault Tony Khan for trying to push younger stars using some of his more established names. Maybe he won't always get the person right that he should be pushing. Maybe the way he goes about doing it, maybe it isn't always the strongest way. Maybe it won't work. Maybe it will work. But I can't fault them for at least trying to get these guys over. So I don't really understand the people who are like, Jack Perry and Daniel Garcia. Again, you don't have to like them. You may think they're not the right person for the spot, but I can at least sit here and acknowledge that that's a plus. The fact that he's trying to get over some of his younger, less established talents. And that was a theme that I noticed in particular with those two during the show tonight. But that's two matches right there that are official now for All Out in 10 days. The other one, the one that I'm most looking forward to, was made official. And that is Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. We are finally going to get them one-on-one, and it is going to be inside of a steel cage. So as violent as their Texas Death Match was last year at Full Gear, we're in for another violent spectacle, I suspect, with these two in Chicago in 10 days. That I am looking forward to. And Will Ospreay, we already know, given that he regained his title on Sunday, is going to be defending the International Championship against Pac. That's 4 matches right there. This is the first show coming out of All In. We already know the top 4 matches on the show at All Out. Ricochet, in his very first match here on Dynamite, first singles match in AEW, main events the show. Went one-on-one tonight with Kyle Fletcher. Jon Moxley is back. He was conspicuous by his absence at the end of the show on Sunday with all the other members of the Blackpool Combat Club and Pac out there to celebrate with Bryan Danielson. There was no Jon Moxley. Now we know why. I'm not even sure there's really a Blackpool Combat Club affiliation anymore with Jon Moxley after what we saw tonight. Jon Moxley going in a different direction. There's a weird story brewing. This was the first shot fired, and whatever this story is going to be, wherever this is going to lead to, there is a new side to Jon Moxley that we saw tonight, and that's very interesting. Now it makes more sense why he wasn't there on Sunday. Story is the key word there. This was a very story-driven episode of Dynamite. I am not going to sit here and call this one of the stronger episodes of the show all year because it was not even close. The first hour I thought was real good. The second hour fell off. Second hour was definitely the weaker of the two, but I thought it set the table nicely for the pay-per-view in 10 days. It is not ideal to have 2 weeks between pay-per-views. That should never happen. I don't care what promotion it is. WWE, AEW, the product is hot, the product is cold. They're sold out. They're not sold out. I don't give a shit. You should not have 2 weeks between pay-per-views. But normally it wouldn't even be that much. Tony Khan bumped it back the extra week because we have, of course, Bash in Berlin is coming up this weekend. I think he wanted some separation there. So it is better having that extra week. And hopefully going forward, we won't have these situations where we have 1 week between pay-per-views, or frankly, even 2 weeks. But 2 weeks is definitely better than 1. We're going to get into everything that happened here on this show because it was a newsworthy show. There was a lot of things going on tonight, so we'll talk about all of it. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday, August 28th, 2024. I am the Solomonster. You know the drill. Hit that like button if you have not already done so. Super chats are open, so get them on in. And I will be reading them a little bit later on. You'll see them popping up on your screen. I know there were a couple that came in before I went live, so I thank you for that. And everybody who has become a channel member, thank you.
I am the
Shut the fuck up. Fuck that tree. Yeah, it was inevitable. You keep poking the bear, and at some point, the bear is going to bite you back. You were all wondering, when was Solomonster going to lose his shit? Well, there you go. Everyone has their breaking point. I feel like we finally reached it here on the stream, but thank you. Thank you for the learning tree. Was that Oz and Glorious? I believe it was. Oz, thank you. So on that note, let's get into this show here. That was refreshing, right? See, I thought it was. I thought it would be refreshing. It's like cleansing almost. I think cleansing is a good word for it. The show opened with a surprise appearance by Jon Moxley, who, as I said, was not present, noticeably absent from All In this weekend, but there he was coming through the crowd. And not only was he entering through the crowd, which he always does, but he was entering through the crowd not to Wild Thing. He came out to his Death Rider theme from New Japan. So you know now this is a different Jon Moxley now. This is not Wild Thing Jon Moxley. This is New Japan Jon Moxley. And he looked annoyed. He looked like he had something on his mind. Tony Schiavone got in the ring to speak to him. Said it's been 2 months since we've seen Moxley at Forbidden Door. And Schiavone was trying to be very folksy. So, how you doing? How you doing, John? How's it going? How's life treating you? Moxley says he's been doing a lot of thinking about things that need to get done. He came here tonight looking for a man who is not here to have a long overdue conversation. Darby Allin says it's about time the two of us had a talk. Says he's not going to be a hard man to find. So he went to go leave, but then he came back and said it's going to take some time for everyone to wrap their brains around this. He looked at Schiavone, and this was the key line here from the promo. He looked at Schiavone and he said, "This is not your company anymore." And with that, he left. And Tony Schiavone stood in the ring looking confused, maybe because Moxley was addressing the wrong Tony. Yeah, there's a lot of Tonys in this company, but I think he may have gotten them a little bit mixed up here. Maybe he just figured Tony Khan is always in Schiavone's ear, and so if he says it to Shivani, he's basically saying it to Tony Khan. So my first thought was the same thought that I'm sure a lot of you had, which is Shane McMahon. And you're going to be hearing a lot of people talking about Shane McMahon and speculating about Shane McMahon, because I think that's the intent here. Whether or not we get Shane McMahon out of this, I think that's what Tony Khan wants you to think. He wants people to talk. He wants to create a buzz. He wants to create conversation around where this story is going. But there's a very real possibility that this is the first tease for the impending debut of Shane McMahon. We know Shane had a meeting with Tony Khan not that long ago, about a month ago now. Both men admitted it. Shane McMahon put a statement out about it after that weird photo got leaked. And then Tony Khan talked about it. Went really well. We had a great conversation as the sons of, of people who have been very successful and what that's like, the pros and the cons, no pun intended. So we know that there was at least one conversation, one meeting between the two of them. And I made my thoughts very clear about it, that I am no fan of bringing Shane McMahon into AEW. I don't think that's the answer to any of their problems. I don't think Shane McMahon is any sort of long-term solution to what ails this company. Could you bring him in, and could there be some interesting story that you could tell with him as far as like one storyline? If you hit just the right storyline, sure. You could always try to come up with some kind of interesting story. But again, people let their imaginations run wild and they think, oh my God, if Shane McMahon comes into AEW, this could be a game changer. He's such a creative guy. He's got all these ideas that I would love to know what they are. Nobody can tell me. But it gets people excited because the idea of a McMahon being part of any wrestling organization other than WWE is just such a mind fuck that I think if a McMahon walked out, any McMahon, let alone Shane, walked out there on Dynamite, it would blow up the internet. It would blow up social media, and it would for 1 week. And then everything would come right back down to earth. This is what I try to explain to people. But the key line there is this isn't your company anymore. That's what gets you wondering if that has anything to do with Shane possibly being brought in. Are they going to bring him in as a new investor? Is this where this is going? Is he going to be brought in that kind of capacity and kind of lead his own brigade in some way? And again, people will before anybody even starts making comparisons or fantasy booking something along the lines of an NWO style invasion, don't. Please don't. The two things, no matter what they come up with here, if it's anything similar, the two things cannot be any different. They're not the same. It would never work. It would have to be something completely divorced from what that was, because it just doesn't work. And by the way, Jon Moxley has been part of this company since nearly day one. I mean, this company didn't even get TV until October of 2019. Moxley was already in the company at that point. He's been there since the beginning. He's been there for 5 years now. When I look at Jon Moxley, I associate him with AEW every bit as much as I ever did with WWE. He's as much an AEW guy, if not more, in my eyes, than he was a WWE guy, even though he was there for a few more years. So any sort of invasion idea that people want to come up with, leading the charge for some kind of invasion, it doesn't work. Okay? It just doesn't work. But later in the show, in the back, Moxley was walking around, I think he was leaving, and the cameraman catches up to him and says, hey, John, what was that comment you made about earlier? What was that about? What'd you mean by that? And we had a raging woman who showed up on the scene, because Moxley is standing there, and there's these two young men who happen to be standing there talking to each other. Wrong place, wrong time. This raging woman shows up and starts kicking their asses, and she's got her back turned, so we can't see who it is at first, but then we see that it's Marina Shafir. And then Moxley, he looks at these two guys on the ground, and he says that this was a lesson in humility. And he walks off, and they leave together. She shoves the cameraman down, and they walk off together. So now there's some kind of connection involving Jon Moxley and Marina Shafir, which has me very confused. But it does make me wonder if we're looking at him assembling a new crew as he's leaving the Blackpool Combat Club behind. Again, wasn't there on Sunday as part of the Bryan Danielson celebration. And maybe he's going to form his own crew. The thought that I had on the Shane McMahon stuff, if in fact Shane has anything to do with this and ends up being brought in as part of this. One way that they could make this work, we still have not heard anything about the new television deal. We're still waiting on word about this Warner Brothers Discovery deal, the new contract. The announcement could come at any time. It's expected to come at any time. What if in storyline they were to work it where when the new deal is finally announced, they kind of tie it into the storyline. They announce it on TV as well. But as part of that deal, Shane McMahon is brought in as part of that deal, right? Maybe they try to work him into the deal in some way, just from a storyline perspective. That could be one way to introduce him. Maybe they're waiting and they're going to tie all this in together when the announcement is made. It was just a thought. I was just thinking about ways in which they could go about, introducing him into the fold here. It's still not something I have any great interest in seeing. I am intrigued, though, to see where the Moxley story is going to go. What I like about it is the fact that they're doing something different with Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley is somebody that could use a reboot. He's been doing the same stuff for a long time. And so doing something different with him, or, a heel turn and breaking him away from the BCC, doing something different, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a positive. I have no idea as far as the Marina Shafir thing and exactly which direction they're going to go with this, but it's the beginning of a story. Where that story is going to go, we'll have to tune in to find out. The Elite story has been a flop. The stuff with the Bucks and the EVPs, and they're running the show, and they're running counter to Tony Khan, that whole storyline was a bust. This is a chance for them to start something new. This could be their new big storyline, and where it goes, we'll have to wait and see. Why does Moxley want to talk to Darby Allin? What does Darby Allin have to do with this? Is Moxley going to cost Darby Allin his championship match at Grand Slam next month? I don't know. Are they going to feud? They're going to have a match? It seems like it. So I'm intrigued by that. The Shane McMahon thing, again, first thing I thought of when he said that line. But we just are going to take a wait and see approach on this and see how it plays out. A lot of different ways they could potentially go with this. We had Hangman Adam Page one-on-one with Tomohiro Ishii, who has been on excursion here in the States. He's been here for several weeks now. And I don't know if this was the end of his excursion. He's going back to Japan, if this was it for the time being. But if it was, I will say he went out with a hell of a battle. They got almost 20 minutes, so they gave him a long time. They went through 2 commercial breaks. These two beat the shit out of each other. These two beat the holy hell out of each other for nearly 20 minutes. Ishii, at one point, he dropped Hangman with his own Deadeye. And honestly, I think what happened is Ishii is not a tall man. Hangman is taller than him. And I think he was too tall for Ishii to be doing that move because he looked like he dropped him on his head. Hangman does that move all the time. And, he's a pro at doing it because it's part of his arsenal. In this case, it looked like, he got dropped. He got dropped on like the side of his head, his neck. It looked like a pretty brutal landing there, but I think it was because he was too tall for Ishii to be doing that move. Page came back with a Deadeye of his own, and then he finished Ishii off with the Buckshot Lariat after a hard-fought match. This was no squash. Ishii made Hangman work for it. And some people may not agree with that, but Tony Khan really likes Ishii. And Ishii is a veteran of New Japan. And I think this is something that people have to keep in mind when it comes to this stuff. AEW has a working arrangement. They have a relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Ishii is a veteran of New Japan Pro Wrestling. So you can't expect that they're going to send him over to AEW and they're going to send him out there and they're going to mistreat him or they're going to just job him out in 5 minutes. That's why we've seen him featured so heavily on television. He was even on the pre-show on Sunday, teaming with Willow Nightingale against Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. And then tonight he goes out there and has a long match with Hangman Page, one of the top stars in the company. So when you say, why is Ishii going 17 minutes with Hangman? There are other factors at play here. There's a relationship that Tony Khan wants to make sure he keeps intact, he keeps them happy, and he treats their talent well when they come over. Ishii falls into that category. That's why. Now, after the match was over, Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana headed to the ring. Swerve did not look happy after losing his championship on Sunday to Bryan Danielson.
It's the amazing Gunther.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry Lawler loves Gunther the Magnificent.
Yes.
All hail Gunther.
Fuck yeah, Jake Jones. What's going on, Jake Jones? With the $50 Gunther bomb. How do you do? Jake Jones, man, thank you very much for the whopping super chat there. $50 drop. Appreciate that very much. I'm going to read your message and everyone else's. Drew Johnson and everybody else here in just a little bit, so don't go nowhere. Swerve gets into the ring. Says that what he should do is turn Hangman into a bloody mess right now for getting involved in his championship match at All In. But he came out here to tell us that he feels sorry for Hangman. He may not have a championship around his waist right now, but Swerve says he will always be referred to as a world champion. So he told Hangman that he failed in whatever he came out there trying to do. Hangman started screaming, because of course he's unhinged. Starts screaming that Swerve is not a champion of anything. You're a piece of shit. Says, you broke into my home. You can't let that go. You broke into my home. And he goes, I wrestled you 3 times. And you could never beat me on your own. He said the first time it took Prince Nana. The second time it took Prince Nana and Brian Cage. Third time it took 30 minutes and you weren't good enough. Says he's not as good as Hangman is. He just wants Swerve, or he wants just Swerve and him. He doesn't want anybody else involved. He just wants the two of them, just like this all began. That was at Wrestle Dream last year. Swerve says, you want to lock them out? You want to lock all those people out? How about we lock us in? Says, all out, you and me, steel cage match. Says, he took it all the way back here to Revolution, the two of them and Samoa Joe. Hangman gave up in the middle of the ring, not because he was beaten, but because he did not want Swerve to have it. And that pisses Swerve off. But he did something Hangman didn't know about. This is a little something that we didn't know that Swerve had done. He drove 10 minutes up the road that morning to Hangman's house, a place that he knows very well. He parked out front. He saw Hangman escorting his pregnant wife down the stairs. Their bags were packed. Getting in the car, driving off to the hospital. He was about to become a father, Hangman was, for the second time in his life. That's when Swerve realized he doesn't need to be focused on Hangman. What he needs to be focused on is the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. He won it, and he will win it again. But Hangman is so focused on him. Says he can't win the Owen. Talking about Hangman now. You can't win the Owen. Says you can't win the Casino Gauntlet. You let your team down at Blood and Guts because you were so focused on me. Instead of trying to burn Swerve's world to the ground, it's Hangman's world that has gone up in flames. He said, in that cage, what kind of man are you going to be? What kind of man are you going to show your kids that you're going to be? So Hangman backed up a few steps, and then he left. Left the ring, walked to the back. So we had Swerve here telling Hangman, go home and be a family man. Leave the work to me. Hangman has been dying to get his hands on this man, even Sunday, right? Security had to hold him back in the main event from getting into the ring. He has been doing everything in his power to try to get at Swerve Strickland, and here's his chance. It's just the two of them in the ring together. No security, no handcuffs, no nothing. And he leaves. He walks away, saving it for the cage in 10 days. I love it. That is a huge match for Tony Khan to leverage now for their pay-per-view coming up. Because, again, this quick turnaround on the pay-per-views, you better have some nice attractions for that show. Hangman and Swerve, this blood feud that's been going on now for almost a year, putting them in a cage for the first time. That's a great attraction for that show. It sounded from Swerve's promo like he was tempting Hangman almost to tap into his violent side again. Hard to imagine anything being more violent than the Texas Death Match these two had last year at Full Gear. But I think this is going to be violent. It's going to be bloody. I'm excited to see it. This was also the first time, and I noticed this. This was the first time that we have seen Swerve without his title since losing it on Sunday. He still walked out there and had a presence about him as champion, even though he's not the champion anymore. So for whatever people want to say, because now I guess we could kind of do the post-mortem, if you would, on his title run now that this first run is over. For whatever people want to say about Hangman's run, or Swerve's run rather, and I know people are disappointed that they took the title off of him. They felt like they, did him dirty, that he was just getting started, and how come they took it from him so soon? He only won it, back in April. I wish he would have had it for longer too. But just because he lost the championship does not mean that this run was a failure. And it's not a failure, and I'll tell you exactly why it's not a failure. It wasn't a success because he beat Will Ospreay. It wasn't a success because he got to headline Wembley Stadium in front of 53,000 people. And he beat Samoa Joe, and he beat Christian Cage, and he won blood and guts for his team. And all these things that happened during his run as champion. It's not even that. A measure of how successful of a title run I think someone has, especially someone it's their first run, right? They weren't at this level before. This is all new to them. This was his first time as a world champion in a major promotion. In just his first appearance coming out, it still felt to me like he was at that level. He came out there. There was just a certain, like I said, presence about him out there. It just felt like he was elevated to a level that he wasn't at before. And that's where he is now. He didn't walk out there feeling like, okay, it's right back down, a few rungs down the ladder. I think they have successfully managed to integrate him into the main event scene in this company in a way where he'll be there. People worried that he might get lost in the shuffle. He's going to go right back to the position he was in before. I don't think that's really a concern anymore. I think he's going to be okay. I think the fact that he also just signed one of the biggest contracts in AEW history to renew, and he's going to be locked in with them through 2028, is another positive sign of how Tony Khan feels about Swerve Strickland. That to me is more of a measure of the success of this run than anything else. How is he booked now? How is he portrayed now? How does he come off on television? I thought he came off great here. Even without the belt around his waist. I'm hopeful that that will continue. We had the in-ring return of Jamie Hayter for the first time in 15 months, one-on-one with Harley Cameron. Speaking of being excited for returns, I was very happy to see Jamie Hayter back on Sunday. Nobody was happier than I was to see her walk out there because this woman has been gone for so long. I was starting to worry that she was never going to come back. Now, they had her on the pre-show. Ideally, they would have had her on the main card. Ideally, that's... Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Shut the fuck up. Fuck that tree. The gloves are off, man. The gloves are off. I've had enough. You've pushed me to my breaking point. Hey, Drew Johnson. I hope you're having a good night, man. What's going on, Drew? Good to hear from Drew. Fuck that tree. But Jamie Hayter was relegated to the pre-show on Sunday. And looking back at the formatting of the card, and we talked about this, I addressed this on TNT last night on JD's channel. That segment with her and Saraya really should have been on the main card. That would have been a good buffer segment between the MJF Will Ospreay match and what came after it, which is a big part also of why the match with Mercedes and Britt Baker died. Not that it was a great match, it wasn't. Even Mercedes in her newsletter was admitting that there are things she would have done differently in the match. I mean, that's basically her saying, yeah, this was not my best match. But that segment would have been a great buffer segment on the card. My guess is they were running low on time. Time management was not great. So it was on the pre-show instead. But I'm just glad that she's back. She's got a new look now. There were a lot of comparisons that were being made on social media about her and Becky Lynch. And I can't unsee it now because she's got the red hair. She's got the very colorful, outfit when she comes out. And yes, now that it's been put in my brain, I can't unsee it. Hayter did not get much out of Harley Cameron here. There was one spot where Harley tried a springboard bulldog that went a little haywire. But this was just a quick match to get Hayter back in the win column and reestablished on TV. She hit 3 hate breakers, which is her rock bottom across the knee 3 times. And then one with the Haterade Lariat. Obviously, they're building to a match with her and Saraya, based on what happened on Sunday, and then even here, Saraya was out there in Harley's corner. That's why this match happened in the first place. This was an extension of what happened on Sunday. And then when the match was over, Saraya wanted no part of Jamie Hayter, and she fled into the crowd. So I don't know that it'll be announced for All Out necessarily. It probably should be. But it could also end up being a TV match. But Hayter and Saraya are going to have a match at some point in these next few weeks. Just very happy to have her back, and they've obviously split her away from Britt Baker, and there may be personal reasons for that, as we have come to find out. And that's fine. You know, the last thing this company needs more of is fucking drama, as if they don't have enough of that already. So Jamie Hayter is going to be just fine on her own. Eventually, she'll work her way back up to a championship match. The title that, when last we saw her, she was wrestling for the championship. She lost it to Toni Storm. Now what I want to see is Jamie Hayter against Mariah May. But that's a match that you could save, I think, for early next year, maybe Revolution, Grand Slam. Grand Slam in February of next year is going to be in a big stadium in Brisbane, down in Australia. You do the match there. That's the match I want to see, though. Renee was backstage with Chris Jericho, Big Bill, Brian Keith, and Roderick Strong, who were he was teaming with the Learning Tree guys tonight. She asked Big Bill about the positive reception he got from the UK fans, and Bill said that he learned from Jericho that fan reactions are like leaves. They change. And fall is right around the corner. Could have fooled me. 93 fucking degrees here in New York today. I can't wait for fall. Jericho did his shtick as he said he was proud of Hook. He said he was proud of Hook for beating him to win the FTW Championship on Sunday. Roderick Strong said that he was proud of being in the Jericho Vortex. Sorry. And he wanted Jericho's help to take care of Orange Cassidy. Jericho said that Cassidy would pay for ruining his $7,000 jacket 3 years ago. His $7,000 suit. That was back when they were feuding. Remember, they had the Mimosa Mayhem match at Daly's Place during the pandemic shows that they did. Still talking about that fucking jacket. You all remember Mimosa Mayhem, don't you? I think every night in Jericho's hotel room is Mimosa Mayhem. We had the now former AEW American champion, MJF, making his way down to the ring for the next segment, coming off of one of the best matches all year with Will Ospreay.
I am the
Shut the fuck up. Fuck that tree. Such an angry man. What an angry fellow that guy is. Now that's Mojito Man. I've been corrected. In Jericho's hotel room, it is Mojito Man. No, actually, it's probably Grey Goose Madness is what it is. Well, let's not talk about what goes on in Jericho's hotel room. Let's talk about this MJF segment here. He gets into the ring. He's got athletic tape up and down his neck, in tremendous amount of pain, he said, after taking the Tiger Driver 91 on Sunday. He said he's lost his ring, which he had tweeted before the pay-per-view on Sunday that somebody had stolen his ring, which I thought was going to play into the match on Sunday, and it didn't, which made me think that the ring really did get stolen. It may well have been stolen. Whatever the case may be, he doesn't have it anymore. He says he lost his ring, he's lost his championship, and now he has 2 herniated discs in his spine. And where were the fans? By the way, can we address this in a storyline fashion here? The man has he's been diagnosed with 2 herniated discs in his spine. He's in a tremendous, in his words, tremendous amount of pain. Evidently, the AEW medical staff does not give a fuck about MJF because they're putting him in the ring. Tony Khan has greenlit this match with Daniel Garcia in 10 days. Apparently, he's good to go. Boy, they're rough in that company. They don't give a shit. But he says, where were the fans? Says when he was defending his country, none of them had his back. So he hereby denounces his American citizenship. He will no longer be associated with this garbage country. The only place that matters is the most magical place in the world, which is Plainview, New York. He said this company without MJF is a circus. And speaking of circus acts, Will Ospreay, the whole world knows that I had you beat. He says, what you did, you cheated like a gutless little worm. He says, this is not over. He told Ospreay to keep his head on a swivel. One day, he knows that Ospreay is going to come this close to winning the big one, to winning the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, and he'll be there to cut him off at the knees with a smile on his face. And last but not least, the worst of them all, the scum of them all, the little child that he tried to help, the little boy, but he wasn't smart enough to realize it, Daniel Garcia. He says if he shows his face again, he's going to end his life. And at that exact moment, Garcia slides into the ring behind him and attacks MJF from behind. Then locks him in a guillotine choke, puts him out. Within 3 seconds, MJF goes limp, like Richard Belzer with Hulk Hogan. And down he goes. So then he sets him up for a pile driver, but then he stops and he turns, Garcia does, he turns and he looks at the corner. Looks at the turnbuckles. So he places MJF on the top rope, and he is going to set up for a pile driver off the ropes. Security, though, hits the ring. He starts knocking him down like bowling pins until MJF ambushes him from behind, and then he goes on the offensive. Garcia turns the tables, sets him back up on the top rope, and again he tries to pile drive him, but Christopher Daniels and more reinforcements hit the ring. MJF manages to scurry out of the ring and escape. Tries to get back into the ring, but more security comes out to restrain him as well. So Garcia asks for a microphone, and he's all fired up, and he says that he pawned MJF's diamond ring in Buffalo, New York, for a round trip to London to ruin the biggest night of his life. No wonder he's looking to leave. No wonder he hasn't made up his mind yet about whether or not he wants to re-sign with this company. What is Tony Khan paying this guy? That he has to go pawn off a diamond ring to fly himself overseas for the show. The fuck? Says, you know what's bad? His mother watching him get wheeled out on a stretcher on the biggest night of his life. That's bad. Ruining MJF's life is all he thinks about. It's his fetish. TMI. Hey, to each their own. I don't need to know. I don't need to know his business. I'm just saying. But he says it's his fetish. And he talked to Tony Khan right down the road in Chicago, because they were in Champaign, Illinois tonight. MJF against Daniel Garcia at All Out. Herniated discs be damned. He said beating him in a match is not enough for him. He won't feel fulfilled until he drops him on his head and breaks his neck. And if there is anybody else on this planet that cares about him at all, they're going to have to watch and suffer with him. And then he chucked the microphone all the way. MJF was like more than halfway up the ramp. And he launched that microphone and he nailed him dead on. Like the fucking Mets can use this guy. He's got to know, with an arm like that, the Mets could definitely use him out of the bullpen. There was good fire here. There was good fire here from Garcia. I thought this was his best work on the microphone to date, which is not to say that he's a great promo. He's not. But of the promos I have heard him cut here on this television program, this was the best of all the ones that I could think of, all the ones that I can remember. And that microphone toss was spot on. Now, I mentioned his contract for those who may have missed it or just assume that him showing up at All In means he's re-signed with the company. He has not. And as far as we know, the latest update on Daniel Garcia is that he still has not yet made up his mind about what he wants to do. He has not signed a contract. He has not signed a renewal. His contract is set to be up in October. So he's got a little bit of time left on there. My gut, again, this is just my gut, nothing that, I know of. I think he's going to stay in AEW. I think that AEW is the right place for him to be anyway. I don't think WWE at this time is the right place for him to be. So I actually think he would be better off staying right where he is. And I'm sure Tony Khan will offer him, a good deal. Hopefully a better one than he has now, since apparently he's got to pawn off jewelry in order to fly himself to some of these shows. That was alarming to hear. This feels beneath MJF. Yes, that is a criticism I've heard with this whole MJF Daniel Garcia thing. But again, it's a chance for them to try to elevate Garcia. Creating new stars is not a bad thing for them to be doing. I don't know if it's going to work, but trying to create some new stars is something that I think this company should be doing more of. And there have been men who have been on that roster and are still on that roster who were AEW originals, who should right now be main eventers, who should right now be in a much better position than the one that they're in. So I certainly hope they have more success with Garcia if he stays than they have had with certain other people who I don't even think I need to name. But that is the second grudge match now that has been added to this all-out card. Garcia is out there talking about how he's obsessed. He's obsessed with ruining MJF's life. It's his fetish. A little too similar to the Hangman Page Swerve Strickland stuff for me. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy. Hangman Page is obsessed with Swerve Strickland. He too, thank God he didn't use that word, but he also seems to have a fetish for trying to fuck over Swerve Strickland and get revenge on the man who ruined his life, who broke into his home, who threatened the safety and well-being of his family, of his child. He is obsessed. Daniel Garcia comes out, says the exact same thing. So a little too similar in that respect, I think, but that's two strong matches already set up for All Out. Then we had what they billed as an all-star 8-man tag team match. I'm looking at the lineup here. I'm wondering where the stars are. We have Hook, Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Mark Briscoe against Chris Jericho, Big Bill, Brian Keith, and Roderick Strong. Big Bill did not go out there and get the kind of reception that he got in London over the weekend. He did not get all the cheers, but he was pretty prominently featured here in this match. I'm hoping that Tony Khan recognizes that he should be doing more with Bill. I said it in my review on Sunday. If anything comes out of this FTW Hook Jericho stuff, I'd like to see more of a push for Big Bill. I'm not saying give him a monster push to the very top, but I'm saying do more with him. Do more than just having him continue to be Chris Jericho's lackey for another 6 months. This learning tree stuff, the sooner it ends, the better. The sooner they start winding down with it, the better. And the thing that I would like to see is him put Jericho in the dirt and then move on to something better. I know Tony Khan heard those fans over the weekend. And even though that was the UK crowd doing UK things, I still think that they could definitely get more mileage out of Big Bill. He's very good. He's in the best shape of his career, right? I mean, he looks like $1 million, big guy. There's definitely more that you could do. Tony Khan does not have a great track record with big guys in this company. I'm hoping that they can buck that trend with Big Bill. Brian Keith also got time to shine in this match. Roddy and Hook, they were the last men standing as Hook countered the end of Heartache into Red Rum. Roddy's foot was underneath the bottom rope when he started feverishly tapping out to Red Rum. This, in the history of all-time bad referee calls in this company, this is pretty high up on the list. Because we've seen ineptitude on a grand scale by these referees in this company, Rick Knox being at the head of that list. This was something else. So Roddy's foot is clearly under the bottom rope. Now, the argument is that Aubrey Edwards didn't see it, can't call what you don't see. She saw Roddy tapping out. The thing is, As soon as Roddy started tapping out, she stands up and she literally steps over the outstretched leg of Roderick Strong to call for the bell. Now, if your argument is going to be that, well, she didn't see it, right? See no evil, hear no evil. She didn't see it. It's a little harder to argue that when the woman literally stands up and steps over the man's leg, which is clearly under the bottom rope. So this was very, very dumb. They wanted a disputed finish because they're building to a match, an FTW title match between Hook and Roderick Strong. So that's why they did the finish the way they did, but it made Aubrey Edwards look like a fucking idiot. We've seen the referees in this company be made to look like fucking idiots on many occasions. But Tony Khan, when he announced this match on Twitter the other day, he announced this big all-star 8-man tag team match, and he replied to himself. Nobody said anything to him. He just went and replied to the initial tweet that he posted. And in the follow-up tweet, he said, "Sometimes you just have to trust me." He said, "I expect this match to rock." This match did not rock. And what came out of it, as I said, was an FTW title match tease between Roderick Strong and Hook. Because when the match was over, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, they assaulted Hook with Roddy. Roddy then held up the FTW championship. Well, I trusted him. And I was left unimpressed by what I saw coming out of this supposed all-star 8-man tag team match here. Hook lost the FTW championship twice before. At All In last year, he had to challenge Jack Perry to get the belt back. And he did. This year, he had to challenge Chris Jericho to get the belt back, and he did. And this time, he had that really special, cool moment at the end of his match where he and his father had stereo Taz missions locked in on different people at the exact same time. And when it was over, he went outside, he gave Taz a big old hug, and they got a big reaction from the crowd in Wembley. It was a great moment, a great father and son bonding moment. That should have been it for the FTW title. The FTW title's been around for a while in this company. It's had a good run. That moment felt like the right time to finally retire it and let Hook move on to do other things other than just keep constantly defending this title over and over and over again. So now what? Is he eventually just going to lose it again and have to fight to get the FTW title back? Is that what he's going to be doing at All In next year in Texas? I mean, at what point do we move him beyond this stuff? That was an opportune time to just retire the FTW title once and for all, and they didn't do it. They're just going to keep it around and keep doing it. I just don't understand it. I don't see the point. I don't see what's gained by just continuing to do the same thing. I don't see the point.
I am the Lord.
Shut the fuck up. Hey, Esru. Fuck that tree. That's right. Esru, thank you for the $12. Death to the Learning Tree Super. I'm going to rename it. It's going to be called Death to the Learning Tree. That's what we're going to call it. Esru, thank you. Backstage, Mercedes Moné was hosting a party for herself after another successful defense of her TBS championship on Sunday. Private Party walked in. They mentioned that you can't have a party without Private Party. And they mentioned that Moné is defending her New Japan Strong Women's Championship against Momo Watanabe at the Capital Collision show this Friday. Then they started hitting on Mercedes, who they mentioned was single again, which is true. Her divorce became final recently. So she is now single. So they mentioned that. And they started hitting on her. Kazuchika Okada steps in. He's at the party. He steps in between them to get in front of Mercedes. Mercedes then asks Okada, "How do you say bye, bitch, in Japanese?" And Okada whispers something in her ear. He whispers some sweet Rainmaker nothings in her ear. And then she says, "Sayonara, bitches." And then Private Party leaves. And the segment ends with her getting Okada to do the Mercedes dance, the CEO dance that she does. And he's got a big smile on his face and he's all excited. This man is down bad for this woman. They've done this before in some other segments where when he's around Mercedes, man, he gets all hot and bothered. Right? He's got a little something there for Mercedes Moné. Now he's also being overprotective of her. I don't know where this is leading to. I don't know if we're going to get more interactions on a regular basis with Mercedes and Okada. I would love to know what Okada is doing next. As far as an actual story, as far as an actual feud, that would be nice. But, you know, we have seen Mercedes and Okada even going back to some of the New Japan shows that they were on. Back when they were champion even then, like celebrating together, holding up their titles together. There's always been a little bit of a kind of a mutual respect there between them. But now they're playing it off in a way on TV where Okada, he's like a schoolboy around this girl. He's like a schoolboy with a crush. And there are some segments they do with him that are funny and humorous. And then there are other times where I'll watch stuff like this and I'll go, what are they doing? What are they doing with him? He's becoming a comedy punchline? And it's true. The people who want to say, well, if he was doing this in WWE, people would be raining down hellfire and brimstone on Paul Levesque for booking Okada as a fucking comedy character on the show. I think that's fair. It's a fair criticism. I'm not saying that Okada, he can't be entertaining. He's got to be stoic and serious and he can't laugh. The reality is, if you know anything about Kazuchika Okada, the guy is a big fucking nerd. That's who he is in real life. He's a fucking geek. That's what gives him his charm. That's how he is in real life. In many ways, this is him being allowed to go out there on TV and be himself. But I do think that when you allow him to go out there and do that, if you do it too much, you're watering down someone who really should be a money attraction for Tony Khan. So you got to walk that fine line, like between entertaining and being serious, as far as Okada is concerned. And I hope they're very careful with that because he's paying Okada a lot of money. And Okada is one of the biggest names on that roster and one of his champions. And what I don't want to see him becoming is a lackey for Mercedes or a punchline where all he does is go around and say bitch. Just don't overdo it. That's my critique there. Tony Schiavone was on stage to introduce the new AEW Women's World Champion, Mariah May, after her very good match with Toni Storm on Sunday. She comes out on stage. She's wearing a black robe that she's holding over her clothes, holding it shut. Said her title celebration that was scheduled for tonight has been postponed. And the reason it's been postponed is because she's not going to do it in this town. She said that she knows it's called Champagne, but it would be, or it should be, renamed Piss Warm Beer. She insulted the women in the crowd as being below average and said that they were used to putting piss warm beer in their mouths, among other things. She offered to provide us with a lesson in glamour and said that she would take off her robe and allow everyone to gaze. And she took the robe off and she revealed some black lingerie that she was wearing underneath with her AEW Women's World title wrapped around her waist. So then she covered up again and said, that's enough. And she walked to the back. I'm enjoying heel Mariah. I think she's great. I was hoping, though, we would get some indication of what she was going to be doing next. And we didn't get it. We don't know who her next opponent is going to be. It doesn't look like she's being set up for a match at All Out. I mean, there is one more Dynamite left. And Collision. So we'll see. So, underwhelming, although we did get to... I mean, look, we did get to see Mariah May, take her robe off and she was wearing lingerie. And so I can't sit here and say that was underwhelming. She's a beautiful woman, obviously, but I was expecting a little more than that. They didn't give us much. But it's always nice to see Mariah May.
I am the Lord.
Shut the fuck up. Oh boy. Fuck that tree. Sid Fishy. Getting fishy here with a $12 Learning Tree Super Chat. Uffman just gifted 10 That's 5. 10 channel memberships. And we had a bunch of other people gifting memberships as well. Thank you all. Welcome to all of our new channel members, by the way. Enjoy your stay. We got some piss warm beer over here in the corner for you. All right, we got remarks from the Grizzled Young Veterans after All In London. It was from backstage. They were talking to the Young Bucks, who pointed out that, hey, we both got the word young in our names. I guess it would be more like middle-aged Bucks now. What's going to happen when they, 10 years from now when they're still wrestling? Going to call themselves the Young Bucks? I mean, you have the Rock and Roll Express still going around wrestling, but they don't call themselves the Young Rock and Roll Express, so that name is going to have to change at some point. I guess just the Bucks. I don't think the old Bucks or middle-aged Bucks is very marketable. They'll just have to call themselves the Bucks. But GYV said that what happened on Sunday when they came out after the Young Bucks' successful title defense, that was a message that they were sending not only to the champions, they were sending it to the entire tag team division in AEW. And he said that, or they said, the Bucks need to grit their teeth when they see them coming. Afterwards, we come back live, and in the back, we have the Grizzled Young Veterans. And they're cutting another promo. And they said that they're going to be wrestling the Outrunners on Rampage this Friday. And then they repeated their grit your teeth catchphrase. I'm not really sure why we needed this twice, but we got it twice. And they are a solid addition to that tag team division. They're a very good tag team. So I'm glad that they have been added to the division. I was speculating to myself on Sunday that I wonder if the spot that they got on Sunday was going to go to the Motor City Machine Guns had they decided to come to AEW, because it doesn't look like they're coming to AEW. I think if they were, we would have heard something by now. They're likely on their way to NXT. And so I do wonder if either that spot post-match was supposed to be for them instead of GYV, or, probably more so, if the match at All In would have been the Machine Guns and the Bucks for the belts had they come over to AEW. I suspect that would have been the match. Or maybe if there was a four-way, they would have been one of the teams. But I think the match was the Machine Guns and the Bucks. Had they come over, that would have been the All-In match on Sunday. We had Ricochet. Rick O'Shea is officially in AEW. And he made his in-ring singles debut, his in-ring Dynamite debut tonight against Kyle Fletcher. This was technically the main event of this show. So Ricochet, in his very first night, gets the main event here on Dynamite. Retro KOH, I got to pause here to thank him, also gifted 10 memberships, showing Uffman anything you can do, I can do better. That's 20. Keep them coming. And enjoy the new emojis. Fletcher, I thought, was the perfect person for Ricochet to dance with here in his first singles match. It was, a very good match. Late in the match, Ricochet went for a splash from the top rope. Fletcher, though, got his leg up, booted him right in the chin. With Ricochet leaning up against the ropes, Fletcher connected with a running knee strike. Ricochet replied with a Death Valley driver for a near fall. And then he followed that with a lifting reverse DDT that he is calling Vertigo. That is his new finish. And he pinned Kyle Fletcher to win his debut match here. Again, debut singles match. Very good stuff. I will say this. If anything surprised me about this match, it was how restrained Ricochet was. For all the flashy stuff that he did do in this match, he was still holding back. And it's only his first singles match, but that surprised me. I was actually expecting him to show off even more, and he didn't. He actually showed some restraint here in that regard. And also, the thing that surprised me, winning with a ground-based maneuver. He didn't go to the top rope. He didn't do the shooting star press or a 630 or a 450 or anything like that. He won with a ground-based move, and so that surprised me as well. Not a bad thing to have a new move or have maybe multiple finishers, one that's ground-based, one that's more aerial. I'm sure we'll see him doing all those other moves, I'm sure. But not a bad thing to expand his arsenal. After the match, the brand new AEW International Champion Will Ospreay who had to fly all the way. He was already in London, and he had to fly from London to Champaign, Illinois, just for this. Just to go back home. Why? Tony couldn't just let him stay home for the week, enjoy his win, come back next week. He walks out here on stage with a microphone in hand, and I'm thinking, okay, they're not wasting any fucking time here, right? Ricochet, his first fucking night in here on Dynamite, Ricochet's in the ring, and already here comes Will Ospreay. Like Tony Khan, man, he can't help himself. So Ospreay comes out on stage before he could even say anything, before he can get a single word out. Pac comes running out from one of the tunnels and hits a poison Rana from behind and spikes Ospreay down headfirst on the stage. Pac then tells Ospreay, don't forget about the bastard. And he then welcomed Ricochet to AEW, told him to get to the back of the line, though, because Ospreay belonged to him, which is true, because that is the all-out match. Pac has an international title shot that is guaranteed, and so he is going to be challenging Will Ospreay in 10 days. So Tony Khan is already teasing it. He is dying to do Ospreay and Ricochet. But you've got Ospreay and Ricochet. You've got Ricochet and Pac. You've got Ospreay, Ricochet, and Pac in a three-way match. There's a lot of different combinations of matches here involving these men that Tony Khan now has at his disposal, and I guarantee you we're going to see all of those matches over these next few months, and I am looking forward to that. It's going to be a sad day for the flippy crowd who love to complain about all the flippy moves. They're not going to like this. Remember the video game match all those years ago that Ricochet and Pac had? Or maybe it was Ricochet and Ospreay. I think is the one that got the complaints about the video game match, right? Ooh, it's going to upset some people. It's going to make some people real mad. I can't wait. The show ended with the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion Bryan Danielson out to the ring to address his wrestling future. Danielson said that after failing and trying and failing and trying and failing and trying, he is the brand new AEW World Champion. In front of over 50,000 people at Wembley Stadium, in front of his family, he won the championship. And when he got to the back, his daughter said, "Daddy, that was the best day of my life." And he did admit, though, that earlier that same day, took his daughter on a double-decker Peppa Pig tour bus. Is that still a thing? I know that Peppa Pig was a big thing a few years ago. How popular is Peppa Pig still these days? Those of you with children in this chat, let me know. Or those of you who may just be Peppa Pig fans. Hey, I'm looking at you, Uffman. I know Uffman, he makes sure he watches Peppa Pig every day. He sits in front of the boob tube and makes sure he watches it. But is that still like a big thing? Or Bob the Builder? Is Bob the Builder still very big? Okay, so Peppa has been replaced by Bluey. Okay, so Bluey is where it's at. Okay, all right. Oh, man. Enough Peppa Pig. Should do to Peppa Pig what Bossman did to Pepper. He said that Sunday was his favorite moment of his entire career. And then when he got to the media scrum, when the show was over, he was asked, what's next? And he admitted his AEW contract expired on August 1st. So think about that. He won the AEW World Championship and headlined their biggest show of the year with no contract. But that just tells you what people think of Bryan Danielson and how much respect Tony Khan has for him, how much trust and respect he has in Bryan. And Bryan is not the kind of person who's going to turn around and fuck him over. But if it were anybody else, they would not be working without a contract in the main event of the biggest show of the year and then putting the world championship on them. Tony Khan did that because he respects Bryan Danielson and because he thinks Bryan Danielson rightly is one of the greatest of all time. That's why he did it, even though the man has no contract. And I do believe that's true. I don't think that they're just saying that. I believe he's working at the moment without a contract. So he admitted that. And he said he is going to need neck surgery sooner than later. said his family is also ready for him to come home. So he has had a lot of thinking to do, he said, since Sunday. When he first got to AEW, one of the first things he said was thank you to the people who started this place. He has loved professional wrestling his entire life, and the fact that AEW even exists makes pro wrestling better and has made his life better. He realizes it's probably time, though, for him to go home. But not yet. He says he will not retire as the AEW World Champion. He is going to fight for this title as much as he can. As soon as he loses it, though, his full-time career, and he specified full-time, will be over. But that's not going to happen for a while because he still has a lot of heads to kick in. It says 2 weeks, all out, Chicago. They've got a young, hungry locker room back there. Anybody who wants a shot, come on down. First come, first serve. Jack Perry appears on the screen. Said he knows Bryan's future. He referenced the injuring Kenny Omega. He talked about burying Darby Allin at Wembley Stadium. Jack said that his future was to retire Bryan Danielson. And Danielson's future was right behind him. And at that point, Perry sneak attacked him in the ring. He attempted to, as Bryan was attempting to get to his feet, Perry connected with his running knee strike and then stood over Danielson with both the TNT and the AEW World Championships raised above his head to close the show. The crowd did not seem terribly enthusiastic about Jack Perry being the one to come out and accept this challenge. They were underwhelmed. But Bryan needed an opponent. As I said earlier, Perry is a young guy who they've been trying to push very hard over the last few months. He's the current TNT champion. And he has a win already over Bryan Danielson in Anarchy in the Arena. You put all those things together, plus the heat that he'll probably get in Chicago, honestly, he was probably the best choice. Because he's going to beat Jack Perry, and then he's going to move on to Darby Allin. I can't say for sure he's going to beat Darby, but I'm pretty sure he's going to beat Darby. I would be very surprised if Danielson goes to Wrestle Dream and doesn't have the championship. That just wouldn't make any sense unless he's just not going to be on the Wrestle Dream card. Why would you not have him on the Wrestle Dream card? You know, you're going to be in Washington State. You're going to be in Tacoma. Why the fuck would you not have Bryan Danielson in the main event of that show defending his championship? So Jack Perry is someone for him to go in there and beat. There's nothing wrong with that. They're turning another card around in 10 days. It's not like they have time to even build up this whole new feud. That's the other reason why I don't mind it so much. If they were building to a pay-per-view that was a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks away, I would say, okay, there's maybe a better story out there for them to build to with somebody else. You got 10 fucking days, dude. Like, what's the problem here? You got 10 days. You got to slap a match together just like that. This guy has a win over him. Makes sense to me. Does it feel underwhelming? Yeah, it does, but it makes sense for a first title defense. I don't mind it. It's not the worst choice. One person who was missing from the show tonight was the winner of the Casino Gauntlet on Sunday. There was no Christian Cage. And he has a guaranteed AEW championship match that he could apparently cash in at any time. I think him cashing in on Christian or cashing in on Bryan and winning the title from him would be a mistake. Not because I don't like Christian. I love Christian Cage. But I think when Bryan loses it, it should be to somebody like back to Swerve. Or it should be Darby. Or it should be, maybe like a younger guy that hasn't been in that position before. Him dropping it to Christian would be such a fucking waste. So I don't know when Christian is going to cash in. Or, if they're going to have him call his shot in advance, or if they're going to have him sneak attack. I mean, just based on his character, that's exactly the sort of thing he would do. So that's what I'm expecting. Maybe he won't be successful, right? We've had some failed Money in the Bank cash-ins before. Maybe he'll fail. Maybe he'll fail because Kill Switch, makes a mistake or whatever, and then they'll finally use that as a way to split them up, and that'll be the end of the patriarchy. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that it would be kind of a shame if we don't at least get a promo with Christian and Bryan Danielson because, Bryan Danielson is fatherless. His father passed away a number of years ago. Christian, is just licking his chops, waiting for the opportunity to go out there and say God knows what. That would be entertaining. But I have no interest in seeing Christian be the one to dethrone Bryan Danielson when you can either have him finally return the favor to Swerve, who has never beaten Bryan before. He's now 0 for 2. Because it was Title Tuesday last year on Dynamite when Swerve lost to Danielson. He just lost to him again. So either finally give him a win over Danielson or have Danielson drop it to somebody else, maybe who hasn't had the championship before, and put somebody else over. To put Christian over just doesn't make any sense to me. I think that would be foolish. But on the whole, I thought it was a solid show. They did what they had to do as far as setting up the key matches on short notice for All Out. They did a good job on that. Match-wise, the Ricochet match was very good, but none of the matches really stand out as anything you need to go out of your way to see, like, oh my God, what a great match. No, it was a story-driven show, very heavily story-driven, building the key stories. That's a good thing. The Moxley thing, again, I have no idea exactly where that's going to go. I have no idea if Shane McMahon is, in fact, going to be at the other end of the rainbow at the end of all this, if he has anything to do with it. Nor can I say I'm excited at the possibility of it, but we'll keep our options open and see where this ends up. I'm intrigued, though. I will say that. They actually have me intrigued on what they're going to do with Jon Moxley. What did you think of Dynamite after All in London? 59% thumbs up is the score so far, 41% thumbs down. That is on Twitter with nearly 1,300 votes in and counting. So go ahead and vote. Not a great score, but it is an overall positive score for Dynamite tonight. I think based on the reactions that I was seeing in the chat before I went live, that sounds about right. As far as the a thumbs up and not a very enthusiastic thumbs up. That makes sense to me. We are currently, how close are we to 400 likes, by the way? We got to at least hit 400, so.
I am the Lord.
Shut the fuck up. Boy, this tree is taking some abuse. Fuck that tree. This tree is taking some abuse. I love it. I love it. I love your super chats too. Let's go take a look at these. We're 392. We're only 8 away. We're getting close. All right, get them on in if you have super chats. I'm going to read through them right now. And then we will do some Be the Booker. Let's take a look here at what your feedback was to tonight's show. And let's kick things off with Prince Vegeta. Prince Vegeta was from Monday. So that is not the super chat that I wanted to read. That was from the Raw review, which if you missed it, was a good review. So go back and check it out. Now we're going to begin with the Real CS. Thank you for the 10 Real CS. You start us out here for the night. Says it's probably just me, but ever since he came back, I feel like MJF has just been phoning everything in. Something seems off to me. This isn't the same MJF we saw last year. I think that's just me. Yeah, I think it is too. I mean, the biggest change is that he is a heel, whereas I don't want to say the majority, but a good chunk of last year he was playing babyface, or at least tweener. He was definitely tapping into a different side of himself last year. Here, he's not challenging for the World Championship. He's back to being a heel. Wrestling with Garcia, again, it feels beneath him, so maybe that's what you're kind of getting at. I wouldn't say he's phoning it in. Have you seen the matches that he has had? I mean, have you seen these two Will Ospreay matches that these two guys just had? Two of the best matches all year. I would hardly say he's phoning it in. Jerome Eugenio, good show. And the card for the next pay-per-view is beginning to shape up. Dude, we got the first 4 key matches already set up. Just based after one show. Chris Ludek, if we get Shane at AEW, we needed Christian doing a promo saying, "Let's talk about your father, Shane." Do we, though? Do we really need that? Oz and Glorious says, "Hello, Solo Branches. I really dug Dynamite, but for the love of God, Tony Khan, please stop putting god-awful Daniel Garcia on my TV. Like he is a Make-A-Wish kid, and only giving us 1 minute of Mariah May." Yes, Oz and Glorious is no fan of Daniel Garcia. Hey, Allie, welcome to the channel. Paul David Elliott, final score, Nationals 5, Yankees 2. Another one for the good guys. Yeah. The Juliet 316, when Okada first came on screen during the Mercedes segment, I honestly thought he was Shane McMahon for a second. Well, you're the only one. I don't think I have ever confused Okada with Shane McMahon. That's a new one. Are we saying the suit? Oz and Glorious, how dare you desecrate the learning tree? I didn't desecrate the learning tree desecrated itself. Raph, just caught COVID for the first time. Feeling like shit. Thank you for the excellent content to take my mind off it. Stay safe, folks. Well, Raph, I hope you feel better, man. It does suck. I still have, I mean, it's the weirdest thing because I had it, I think it was my third time. I had it in July. It was like 5 weeks ago, right? Where are we now? 6 weeks. I had it 6 weeks ago. And I still have congestion and leaking out of my fucking nose. No other orifice, thank God. I haven't been able to shake it. It's the most annoying thing. I mean, I otherwise feel fine, but I'm just constantly like and I don't think it's allergies. I'm just constantly dealing with it. I'm gonna have to go to the doctor now. Have him check and make sure I don't have a sinus infection, which I don't think I do. Mr. Rod, that learning tree super chat was awesome. I agree. Fuck that tree. Yes, that's one thing we could all agree on. Is fuck that tree. Jake Jones again. Man, $50, man. $50 Gunther bomb from Jake Jones. Brothers Solo. Don't always get to tune in live, but thank you for keeping me going during a long night shift. Keep up the great work. Jake, I will keep up the great work as long as you keep tuning in, brother. Thank you for the love. I'm glad you were able to join this time. You got to do it more often. Corey J. Barnett says, longtime fan, my favorite rant of yours ever was the rant against the media for Michael Jackson's death. I get more feedback about that episode probably than any other single episode that I've ever done. That was episode 75 of The Sound Off. For reference, I'm about to record episode 877 this weekend. That's how far back. I mean, Michael Jackson died in 2009, so that's how far back that rant goes. So shout out to episode 75 and all the OGs who are still with me. Boomerang, this is not your company anymore, equals Shane McMahon's debut at All Out. All Out? You think so? That's an awfully quick turnaround. You don't think he wants to milk it for a little bit longer? I could see it, though. Retro KOH. A decade ago, we all said, fuck that owl. Now we say, fuck that tree. Yeah, well, wrestling fans have a problem with nature. Drew Johnson with the 12. All hail the Solomonster. Remember that time Shawn Michaels screwed Bret Hart in Montreal? Such an amazing moment. Yes. Yes, it was. And you know what else is amazing? Bret Hart still has his hair and Shawn Michaels is bald. Thanks, Drew. Tuxedo T. Servo with the 12. Great to have Jamie Hayter back. Hikaru Shida teased the heel turn on Collision, called herself the ace of the division. Looking forward to them both going forward. JM, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. And thank you for being a channel member, one of our gold skulls, for 34 months. It's amazing. Wow. Vampirus in the chat. Been a Solo fan since 2007. I started in 2007, so he's been there since day one. The Real CS. Who in NXT would you like to see go on an excursion next? Tavion Heights has been killing it in Japan. I don't think there's any one person. I would love to see them rotate and cycle people out and have everybody go on excursion to Japan or maybe even other places too. Mexico, parts of Europe. I would love to see them forge relationships with promotions in different parts of the world and take different NXT talents at different times throughout the year and let them go on a little mini excursion there for maybe 3 months, 4 months. I think they would all benefit from that. Esru, long live the learning tree. Thanks, guys. The Juliet says, don't forget Pac and Ospreay it all out for the international title. I'm well aware. That's why I mentioned it on the show. Sid Fishy, with multiple wrestlers working without a contract in AEW, is it possible they are waiting to collectively bargain and form a union? Do you think a pro wrestling union will ever be a reality? No and no. And what is the multiple wrestlers working without a contract? We know that Danielson is one. Who are the other wrestlers you're referring to who are supposedly working without a contract? Because I'm aware of Danielson. I'm not aware of anybody else. The reality is, if there was ever going to be a wrestling union, it would have happened by now. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And Jesse Ventura, by the way, shout out to Chris Van Vliet. He got a great sit-down interview with Jesse up on his channel. And he talked about the whole Hogan story, ratting him out when he tried to form the union. And he said it best, you know, he tried to get something going. Hogan ratted him out to Vince. And he went away to go film Predator. And when he came back, he told Vince, he said, look, you don't have to worry about me forming a union anymore. Vince was like, really? Why? He goes, I got my SAG card. He got taken care of. He goes, if these idiots, you know, were too stupid to actually stand up for themselves, then that's not my problem anymore. And you know what? He's right. He's right. If wrestlers wanted to have a union, they would have had a union by now. So it's just not going to happen. The Real CS, Hook needs to leave AEW. Guy should be a multi-time TNT champion by now. He has NXT written all over him. I disagree about him being a multi-time TNT champion. I think there is a lot to build on there as far as Hook is concerned. But he's still very inexperienced. You know, I wouldn't say that Hook is great. He's still very green in many ways. So I think he'll get there. I hope he gets there eventually. I think he could be a star. I don't know how big of a star, but he could be a star. But, you know, I wouldn't say he should be a multiple-time TNT champion by now. There are plenty of people far better than him on that roster who themselves have not been TNT champion, who I would put in line long before Hook. Justin Hesse with the $9.99. I think Justin was at the show tonight. Justin, you have to let me know how the show was in person. Uffman Entertainment said Mariah May picture is on the private group on Facebook. You're welcome. Easy there, big fella. Easy, big fella. Justin G, guess who's 44, has 2 thumbs and $2 less. Thanks, Solo. Happy birthday to Justin G. I hope you have a great one. Kingpin, Jay Rella. We had at least one GWO member in the Champagne crowd tonight. Actually, we had more than one because I think Justin was there too. Son's first show. Not the biggest wrestling fan, but got a best day ever from him. I'll take it. See, but that's got to be the best thing though about being a dad though, right? When they turn around and they say, "Oh, that's the best day ever," right? That's gotta make you feel good. Todd Warner. What do you use to shine those belts behind you? Love you, Solo. I give him a good spit shine. That does the trick. Arabian Night 2000. Solo, love your top match of the year lists. Seems like AEW could occupy 90% of your list this year. Does WWE have to step up their in-ring? Too soap opera-esque? No, they don't. And the reason they don't is because they're killing it business-wise. So who am I to sit here and say, hey, you're doing it wrong, you need to do it this way? What they're doing seems to be working. And to be fair, I mean, there's been a lot of great WWE matches this year. Gunther has been a part of many of them. But, you know, the main event of WrestleMania stands out to me with Cody and Roman. I mean, there have been some really good WWE matches as well. In-ring wise, though, as far as... because I have an ongoing list right now. And I can tell you from just glancing at my list right now that it is very... very much not a WWE list. It is not dominated by WWE matches, but there are WWE matches on there. Base Beerus. Solomonster gives the belts that Hawk Tua. There you go. That's true. That is true. Although I'm sure I'm not as... experience with it as Hawk Tua girl is, who was at SummerSlam, by the way. She was there. Maybe she was hanging out at the hotel after. Base Beerus gotta say, I'm kidding. Hawk Tua girl. Maybe not. Base Beerus, does Bryan get a win over Ospreay before retiring? I don't see why he should. Why should he beat Will Ospreay? Will Ospreay is one of their biggest stars who is on the ascent and is full-time and is sticking around. Bryan is not. Why does he need to beat Will Ospreay? He doesn't. Bryan Alex. I was afraid Bryan would pop up on Raw throwing the AEW belt in the trash. Well, you don't know Bryan Danielson very well if you thought that Bryan was going to do that. The real CS, I was referring to the promos. It just has not been the same to me. Yeah, I mean, these promos he's been cutting, none of them stand out as among the best he's ever done, but I would not say he's phoning it in. But thank you for clarifying, because certainly in the ring, he is anything but phoning it in. Oz and Gloria, Shane, Mox, Lashley, MVP, and Marina Shafir, new faction. Lashley is a free agent. Bobby Lashley is a free agent. That is true. I don't know about the Marina Shafir involvement here. I'm going to have to be sold on that. Luis says, F that learning tree. That's right. You tell him, Luis. The learning sicko Dr. Bropio, killing one tree at a time. Thanks, guys. Probably did not even get the super chat because YouTube and Canadian taxes. Yeah, by the time it gets to me, it's probably next to nothing. But thank you anyway. I do get something. Isaac, any HOG matches that you would recommend to watch? The wildest match that I've ever seen or called in House of Glory was in December of last year. It was Charles Mason and his ex-bodyguard, Carlos La Sombra Ramirez, for the Crown Jewel Championship. That was at, I think December was the darkest hour, I think. If you go on Triller TV, I mean, they should be archived there. Definitely check out that match. That match was ridiculous. And frankly, I mean, there have been some matches this year. You know what you need to check out? Puerto Rican Weekend, June 8th, we had a show. It was Mike Santana's Puerto Rican Weekend. He was very heavily involved in putting that card together. Very proud, of his Puerto Rican heritage. So that was a big weekend. He wrestled the Amazing Red. They had an incredible match. Incredible atmosphere in the building. So that would be another one I would recommend checking out. Rizzo, Let me tell you something, brother. You versus me for those titles behind you. How about no? Those titles are not on the line. I spent good money to get that one re-leathered right there. You ain't getting that title from me. Base Beerus says, buy or sell Simon Dean or Danhausen. Danhausen. Heartbreak Kiddo. Happy Power Rangers Day. All right. I was never a big Power Rangers guy. Power Rangers was really after my time. So I don't hate them. I don't have anything against them, but I was not a Power Rangers guy. I was a Ninja Turtle guy, but I was not a Power Rangers guy. So, I think that covers those. Yes, I think I got everyone's message. We are currently at 437 likes, which is good. Nice strong showing there, but I'm sure we can inch our way closer to 500. So go ahead and try to get me there, and I am going to get you to be the booker in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
What was that giant head called on the Power Rangers? Remember they would go talk to that thing, whatever the hell it was. It was just a head, like a talking head. Zoltar, whatever what was that thing called? Was that like their boss? Like Charlie from Charlie's Angels? Did that thing have a name? See, I told you I'm not a Power Rangers guy, so I don't know. Zordon. What did I say? Zoltar? Zordon. Okay. All right. Zordon. He has no body, though, right? It's just the head. It's a little strange. That's a little sus. I'm just saying. When you have a head and no body, it's a little sus. All right, tag team, be the booker. We begin with Kane and the Big Show, the former Raw Tag Team Champions. What do you think that total combined weight is? Probably 8-something, right? 800 and something pounds. Kane and Big Show are going to take on Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. One of the greatest matches still in AEW history was Revolution 2020, the Young Bucks against Hangman and Omega. That and the cage match between the Bucks and the Lucha Bros are the best tag team matches in company history. All right, it's time to see what ladies we are going to be working with here tonight. We have Alexa Bliss. I almost forgot about Alexa Bliss. Don't tell Bliss fan I said that. But Alexa Bliss, former Raw Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion, multiple times. I think she's like a 6-time Women's Champion, this woman. She's been gone for like 2 years. I have no idea when she'll be back. But she will be back eventually. We got Bliss fan is very excited that we have landed on Alexa Bliss. Bliss fan wishes he was in Be the Booker so that we would land on him and then he could get to wrestle Alexa. Nothing would make him happier. We have Alexa Bliss against Ty Mello. How are we feeling about this? Because I know what I'm thinking here. I want to gauge some feedback from the chat here before I make my selection. I'm on the fence here. I could go either way. I could be persuaded. Yeah, I tend to agree. Not a winner. That's just not a winning combination there. All right, main event time. We begin with the AEW World Champion, former AEW World Champion. He was the World Champion when this photo was taken. Kenny Omega. I do miss Kenny Omega. When we get Kenny Omega back, man, he's going to have a lot of big matches lined up waiting for him. Kenny Omega for the second time here in Be the Booker here tonight. So nice, we had it twice. Kenny going to go one-on-one with... Oh no, Gangrel is watching you masturbate. Spin again. He's so focused too. Look how focused he is on what he's watching. Look at him just like sneaking up from under the ring. Like a peeping Tom. Oh, Gangrel. Oh man. He's having a good time. He's very focused. He's very focused. You never know what you're going to land on here and Be the Booker. I have no idea. It's totally random. I have no idea. It didn't say the gender that he is watching. I mean, he could be watching anybody masturbate. It could be male or female. We don't know. All right, well, Kenny Omega is going to have to find a new opponent here. Kenny Omega. Oh, no. Kenny Omega and Bill Goldberg. And Kenny just came back from injury, and now he's going right back on the injured list. Another Canadian career ended at the hands of Bill Goldberg. Poor Kenny, man. After healing up, all the surgery, all the rehabilitation, he comes back and he gets in the ring with Goldberg. I can think of no worse punishment than that. He didn't deserve that. He did not deserve that. Oh, Kenny. Kenny. He would have been better off with Gangrel. SNK fan 01. Hey MZ, welcome to the channel. I hope you missed that. Be the Booker. I hope he didn't come in just when that Gangrel image was on the screen. SNK fan, I thought Tony called Mox to help him with the Bucks. Yeah, but help him in what way? What does he need help with? Tony is the president of the company. He's the CEO of the company. He's there. He has the power. What does he need help with? This is what I mean. This angle is a fail. It's a bust. Which is ironically what the person was doing that Gangrel was watching. Devin from New Jersey. If Cody did not come back to WWE, who would you have had dethrone Roman? That's a good question. Honestly, you could have made the argument for Sami Zayn to be the one to do it. Just do the match at WrestleMania instead of Elimination Chamber. But if they were looking... Oh boy. Shut the fuck up. Fuck that tree. Uffman Entertainment. Dropping $12. You love to see it. Thank you, brother. Ideally, it would be the person that WWE wanted to build around as their new top babyface. So take your pick as far as who that would have been. God, if it wasn't Cody, who would it have been? Rollins? Yeah, you know what? Maybe it would have been Rollins. Maybe so. Maybe Seth Rollins, with the history there between them. Gunther? It would not have been Gunther. Base Beer as MVP used to be a Power Ranger. He dressed up like one. Uffman says, sorry, Patricia. Oh, poor Patricia. Heartbreak Kiddo. Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles teamed up in space. What? You serious? Arabian Night. Arabian Night, the jury is still out on what is going on with Ricky Starks. There were people who thought he was going to show up in the Casino Gauntlet, and he didn't. But the person who told me about him, being a free agent and being, in WWE soon, even though it wasn't a done deal yet, is somebody who had told me some other stuff about All In that turned out to be true. So I don't know what's going on with Ricky now. It could have been misinformation. It could have been that he was fed some bad information, or maybe not. That story still has yet to play out. I know what Tony Khan said at the Scrum. He claimed that Ricky is still under contract, and you take him at his word. He's the boss. But to me, until we get another update, the jury is still out on that one. Retro KOH, Kenny and Goldberg. Which one was Gangrel watching? Oh man. Oh my God. The thought that Gangrel was watching Bill. Oh God. Oh my God. I don't even want to think about that. That's a horrible, horrible image. Who was Gangrel watching? Wrong answers only. Who was Gangrel watching? Anyway, I think I have caught up now with all your messages. So thank you guys for making this a fun stream. I think it was a good review. I think we covered a lot of ground here on a noteworthy episode of Dynamite. Not the best episode, but definitely a newsworthy episode. And all of the key matches are now set up for All Out next weekend, which is looking good so far. How long have I been with Hog? And what is the story of how I joined the company? If somebody has asked this already, I apologize. A lot of answers here. Gangrel is watching Liv and Dom. Gangrel is old enough to be his dad. You know that, right? I've been with Hog for 6 years. And as far as how I got involved, I was invited to be a part of, they wanted to do a WWE style pre-show before the big high intensity summer event in August back in 2018. And I said, yeah, that'd be great. And so I went, and it was JD and myself, and there was another announcer at the time named Ben. And we did it, and there were some wrestlers who stopped by. We interviewed them, Austin Aries and Sami Callihan, and it was fun. And then I was just going to stick around for the rest of the show, and then I was invited to sit in on commentary for the Open Challenge. The first match I ever did commentary for was an Open Challenge for the Impact World Championship with Austin Aries defending the Impact World title. So that was my first match. And then it just went from there. I kept showing up at the shows, and they would fit me in here and there with the announcers. They already had an announce team. But then there was a vacancy on the team, and when there was a vacancy on the team, I slid in there like, Dom sliding into Liv's DMs, and the rest is history. 6 years later, here we are. It's been a fun ride. Solomonster is a big Hog guy. Don't go spreading rumors now, but at least they're true rumors. Velvet Sky. Fucking Velvet Sky. She's another one who blocked me. God only knows why. Anyway, thank you guys again. I will be live with you on Friday night. It will be in Berlin, Germany for SmackDown. LA Knight has an open challenge for the United States Championship. And then I want you guys to come hang out with me on Saturday afternoon, much as you did on Sunday after All In, because we have the Bash in Berlin. And I will be live with my Bash in Berlin review. As soon as the PLE is over, you can come on by here to the channel. I will be live with my reaction and my full review. And then, of course, episode 877 on the podcast drops on Sunday with the news of the week, your questions, and I will have a lot more to say about the death of Psycho Sid. Get a little more in-depth on that and his career, his unfortunate passing this week. So a lot of content coming up, and also we had another long episode, great episode of Tuesday Night Titans last night, myself and JD having a discussion about a lot of different topics. So I'm all over the place. You're probably sick of me by now, but too bad. I'm not going anywhere. So go ahead and check all that stuff out. Be well, stay safe, hit that like button on your way out. And remember, just remember, when you go to bed tonight, just be careful. Depending on what you're doing tonight. And just remember Gangrel. He just might be watching you. Sweet dreams.